The Legend of Sunset Shimmer, Ocarina of Time. By Ganondorf 8. May 17, 2015. Chapter 71, Madness and Escape. Ganondorf's lightning strike had me pinned down, and unable to move. Every time he would attack, another one followed shortly afterwards. While I was holding my own, I was slowly taking damage, although it was more internal than external given how these electrocutions were going through numerous organs within my body. I needed to do something fast, otherwise I will surely die, and even though I have fairies, he will likely destroy them, preventing me from being revived. Spike was right about he chose to change tactics because he witnessed my fight against Phantom Ganon, so there is nothing about me he doesn't know about. That's when I realized he doesn't know about some of my more elusive tricks, because the last time I used them was when I was living in Equestria before my exile. There was a spell Princess Celestia once taught me during the early days of my studies, so I'm hoping it will get me out of this.
How long do you think you can keep this up?
Asked Spike.
So far, my internal organs are holding their own, but I need to get out of this before it becomes fatal, I replied. I'm not sure if you can break free Sunset Shimmer, said Spike. We both know that he isn't invincible given he's weak against the light, and he's also vulnerable to his own magic, but I have a little trick up my sleeve. When I lived in Equestria, I learned all kinds of magic spells that covered different forms. While much of the magic you've seen me use has been offensive, I'm capable of using defensive, transforming, levitation, and even magical explosions,
I said.
If you plan on using Nehru's love, now would be a good time, said Spike.
While that would have been a pretty good option, using that spell would do me no good as I can't use other magic so long as the barrier surrounds me, and I doubt Ganondorf would be willing to give me time to try something else. He was determined to end my life because he wanted to prove he was stronger, so perhaps I can use that to my advantage when the opportunity presents itself.
That won't work, I began. Why not?
Asked Spike.
Using Nehru's love prevents other magic from being used until the barrier wears off, so all I'd be doing is stalling. He isn't going to give me a chance to come up with a better idea, and I also doubt he would even let me cast the spell. No, I have something else in mind which he doesn't even suspect,
I replied.
If you're thinking of using a unique form of magic, I would suggest otherwise because you know Ganondorf is immune to all magic aside from light and his own,
said Spike.
I've got something special in mind which was taught to me by my teacher, and he is going to be very surprised. I just need to raise my hand high enough,
I said. It wasn't easy to lift up my hand because the lightning strikes continued to damage me, so I needed to work fast, and after struggling for a few moments, I managed to conjure up a small little ball of magic within my palm. From there, I aimed carefully because the intention I had was hitting one of those lightning strikes in the hopes that it will explode. Sure, it sounded risky because I only have one shot at succeeding, but Princess Celestia also taught me about how to remain calm in these situations. This was something I had forgotten when the darkness consumed me when I looked at that mirror, and even now as I fight against the King of Evil, just looking at him is like looking at my own reflection because I could have been like him.
You've got to do something now,
shouted Spike.
I am, but I need to concentrate, I said.
When Ganondorf threw the next lightning strike at me, I tossed my little ball of magic, which was in fact a magical bomb which reacts when it comes in contact with another magic. When the opposing powers collided, it caused a magical explosion, and in the confusion, I was able to move away before the next lightning strike could hit me. By the time the evil king had regained his senses, I was aiming a light arrow at him which I fired, and it struck him where he went flying until he crashed into a wall.
I was expecting him to drop down onto the pillar like before, so why did he get flung into the wall? Because you chose to use a light arrow rather than stun him with his own magic, all you did was knock him back, but I think you may have acted a little hesitantly,
replied Spike. By the time Ganondorf got himself off of the wall, he hovered over before landing in front of me, where once again he had a smile on his face rather than being furious.
Quite the resourceful one, aren't you, kid?
Asked Tyrek.
That would have been a perfect plan had I not exercised patience, I replied. You are still just a kid, but I must commend you for using such an unusual method. Most would have died after being shocked for the third time, but you kept going despite the pain. What really impresses me though is the fact that you possess magical powers far beyond someone of your age, and that has me rather curious. You're just a kid who left her forest home, but you wield arcane magic that is equivalent to an ancient sorcerer,"
said Tyrek.
"I'm just really gifted," I said. "There is much more to you than that," said Tyrek. "What are you implying?" I asked. "Do not attempt to play the fool, for I know you hide much from me. You claim to be from another world, so perhaps this place you call home houses those who are masters of the magical arts. If this is true, then I shall claim it, as conquering just Hyrule alone isn't enough to keep me satisfied. Why have the pleasure of just one world under my dominion when there are many others which are waiting for someone like me to come along and take them?" replied Tyrek. No one would be able to stop him were he to travel to other worlds, so now I have an even bigger reason for defeating him. "Your lack of an answer to what I've said indicates you know a lot more than what you've been saying thus far, so unless you wish for a thunderbolt to strike you from above, I suggest telling me what I desire." "You've not reason to go to any other world," I said. "And why not?" asked Tyrek. "Some worlds can be best described as modern with their way of thinking, and as completely dull as very little happens unless you're a political figure in which you have to govern those who serve you," I replied. Even though I knew the human world was much better than that, I needed to give him an explanation that would change his mind. Convincing him to ignore the human world will be easy, but trying to do so when it comes to Equestria is going to be difficult, as my true home is very similar to Hyrule. "I rule this land with power and nothing more is necessary," said Tyrek. "My suggestion would be for you to abandon the idea of wanting to conquer other worlds, for you haven't taken into consideration that you could be opposed by those who live in these places. People just won't allow anyone with grand desires like you come into their lives in an attempt to take it from them, and trying would only make you more enemies than you can even handle," I said. "It would not be an issue considering my power is more than enough," said Tyrek. "Figures you would say that," I sighed. "Why lie about something which is obviously the truth?" asked Tyrek. "You're not going to conquer any other world as long as I'm here," I replied. It's times like this where I wish my words could have been said differently, for the evil king took offense and charged where he grabbed me by the neck before lifting me up into the air. His grip was crushing my neck, which was making it difficult to breathe, and he was cutting off my means of being able to counterattack as I wasn't receiving any blood or magical flow into my arms. "Such insolence coming from you, kid, and here I was even thinking of granting you mercy," said Tyrek. "You? Grant mercy? Don't make me laugh, as you're the last person who would do anything like that," I said. "I could kill you whenever I desire, so I suggest you keep that tongue of yours in check, otherwise one twist and your neck shall snap in two like a twig, yet it would be a waste to kill you now. There are secrets you hide, and since it was so easy to learn Zelda's secrets, getting what I wish to know from you shall prove most rewarding. Your story about being a girl from the forest is one I never believed because you act in a manner which goes against the forest children,"
said Tyrek. If he was going to do what I'm thinking of, he'll regret it, as I doubt his mind will understand what kind of world Equestria is. Then again, he could easily figure it out, as I remember that he reminded me of someone who also comes from there. What did I say his name was back then? Tyrek? Why does that name sound equestrian, or at least a neighboring land? I'm convinced the person he represents is from there along with myself and Twilight, yet why have I never heard of him before? Was he going to be covered in a later part of my studies? Twilight must surely know of this Tyrek, yet why has she never mentioned him in her replies to my letters? So many questions which had no answers, and I don't think they even are feasible to begin with. I'd better not mention this in case I've gotten it wrong, but I should mention something as he seems to be getting impatient.
If you're going to do to me what you did to the princess, I suggest you back away from it,
I suggested.
Such a pathetic threat, yet it does nothing because you're not in a position to be making any demand. Since you're so insistent on keeping these secrets to yourself, it makes me even more determined to know just what lurks within that mind of yours,"
said Tyrek.
"I'd prefer you killing me than knowing about Equestria," I said. "Equestria? What kind of a name is that?"
asked Tyrek. My heart sank because I just blurted out the name of my true home, but it seems Ganondorf doesn't know what it means, so maybe he isn't from there as I originally suspected. Or, he could be, but his memories have been blocked due to being a part of this world just like everyone else. His grip around my neck started to get tighter because he was getting annoyed at how I was constantly refusing to speak.
"You shall tell me what I desire to know, or it shall be forced out of you." "I've nothing to say," I said.
This proved to be a mistake because Ganondorf suddenly slammed me into the ground before picking me up and throwing me across the room, where I slammed into the door, injuring my back. As I slumped to the floor, gasping for air as I could now breathe again, the evil king walked over to where I had fallen, and used powerful dark magic, knocking me into the air before grabbing my neck again. He then squeezed it even tighter than before, and I could feel my life slipping away from me.
"Like I said, I can kill you whenever I desire, and doing so would enable me to claim the Triforce of Courage which you possess, yet I was willing to give you a chance in an attempt to keep me amused. Perhaps I shouldn't have been holding back, for clearly my methods haven't been very effective, so I shall grant you a quick death unless you give me the answers I seek about where you come from." "I've got no other choice, do I?"
I asked.
"In your current position, refusing me will result in death,"
replied Tyrek.
"Don't say I didn't warn you," I said. "Again, such threats are meaningless to me,"
said Tyrek. He then began to focus his magical energy on my mind, and I could feel him reaching deep into my subconscious in an attempt to learn about where I really came. Yet deep down I knew Ganondorf would have quite the reaction when he learns just what I really am. That's when I started experiencing his magical attack against my mind, and I couldn't hide anything as his power was too great for me to resist.
"Show me what secrets you keep from me, kid, for there is much about you which piques my curiosity. Yes, these images of the world you truly come from. I can sense it is a world of powerful magic, and one I can conquer without any difficulty. Once I gain the true force by acquiring the remaining pieces from Zelda and yourself, the first world I shall claim will be this one."
As he continued gleaming through my mind, he eventually came across the information I really didn't want him to see, but there was no holding him back. He kept going for a little while longer until he suddenly dropped me on the ground when he discovered my deepest secrets, and this is where I'm going to be seeing some ridicule.
Looks like you discovered something, I said. What is this?
Asked Tyrek.
I did warn that you should have backed away,
I replied.
According to what I observed, your magical power is even greater in your world. How unfortunate, kid, as you could have had a chance of prevailing against me had you been able to access such power, but I suppose destiny serves to hinder any hope you believed. Yet, there is one thing which I gleamed which cannot be real, and that is you live in a world which is populated by horses,
said Tyrek.
And what has that concluded?
I asked.
You're a horse?
Asked Tyrek.
If you want to be politically accurate, I'm actually a pony, or rather I should say a unicorn,
I replied.
The one who I declared was worthy, and had been achieving numerous successes, has been a talking horse this entire time? Yet, you stand before me as a human rather than as your true form. It explains why you gain the ears and tail of a horse, because it is a representation of your true self as a four-legged beast,
said Tyrek.
I used to be a unicorn until I went into exile,
I said.
That means nothing to me, but the fact that you are a beast is amusing,
said Tyrek. At that moment, he began to laugh, which is exactly what I was anticipating, as I knew he would mock my true form.
To think that you are nothing more than a common mount with the gift of magic, yet knowing the truth about you changes everything. I can no longer look at you in the same manner, but then I never viewed you as being special apart from possessing the Triforce of courage. I knew you wouldn't accept me for what I really am,
I said.
While Zelda believes you to be the hero of time, I see you as a horse who has wandered too far from her herd. This battle has become a joke now, as I am merely wasting my time fighting against a four-legged beast who thinks she can pass herself off as a human. If you were hoping that me knowing the truth about you would make things easy, then you are sadly mistaken, kid, as I've no intention of making this last much longer. The great Ganondorf cannot be fighting a horse, for that is beneath my notice,
said Tyrek.
Looks like you're underestimating me, I said. Then prove to me that you are more than just a horse,
said Tyrek.
I have every intention of doing that, I said. Talking is one thing, but actually living up to your boasts is another,
said Tyrek. He then began stomping the ground repeatedly, which looked like he was having a temper tantrum, but I quickly discovered what was happening. He was creating a series of shockwaves which disrupted my balance, and I started to struggle as the waves kept coming. Eventually, I lost my balance and fell over, and Ganondorf proceeded to fling another of his magical attacks. I had no means of defending myself given how I'd just fallen over, and the blast threw me into the door. Before I could regain my composure, he began stomping the ground again, which knocked me off balance, and when I was stable just enough, he threw another magical attack which struck me in the chest so hard, it felt like I'd been punched in my gut with several hundred punches all at once.
Are you okay?
Asked Spike.
I'm holding on against him, and that's surprising,
I replied.
That's because he has been toying with you ever since the battle began, but it looks like his fun has ended, considering how he's attacking you repeatedly without giving you a chance to do anything. I'm not sure if allowing him to know who you really are was such a good idea, yet I suspect you have some kind of plan?
Asked Spike.
I knew wasn't going to take me seriously when he learned that I'm a pony, but that has become my one true advantage. He's going to act cocky over viewing me as a beast, and that will cost him especially after I transform at the right opportunity. Besides, I did warn him not to peer into my mind, so he has only himself to blame should I prevail. Granted, I wasn't expecting a magical onslaught, and I'm guessing that my health has taken quite the beating considering I've been on the receiving end more often than not.
I replied.
You need to do something before you get killed,
said Spike.
I have 2 fairies that will prevent that, but then he did say that he could destroy them, I said. You could try that explosive magic again, but will you get the chance to use it? Also, Ganondorf has been known to be a quick study, for he can remember the fighting styles of opponents relatively quickly. This is common knowledge throughout Hyrule, as it's said he was a renowned fighter during the war which took place before this land became a kingdom, and no one was ever able to defeat him in battle due to his skill. Not even the best of the royal guard were able to overcome him,
said Spike.
So he's probably expecting me to use that magical explosion again, I said. If you plan on using it, you'll need a different tactic which will take him by surprise,
suggested Spike. The evil king was being relentless in his attacks where I wasn't being given an opportunity to escape or even make a counterattack, and it's all because I've disappointed him. He viewed me as worthy, which suggests he doesn't see many people as being on equal footing with him, yet now that image he envisioned me as has been shattered, and replaced with the image of a horse. All this time, he had been someone who I've been afraid of fighting because of the immense power he wielded, but he's just like an immature child who is having an episode. Maybe I've been allowing my fear to control me when I should have ignored it, and focused on fulfilling my destiny. I think I've got a chance to win, but first I need to get up and prepare a suitable counterattack.
I guess you did not live up to my expectations after all,
said Tyrek.
Just because I'm a magical pony, doesn't make me any less of a hero, I said. Looking at you makes me laugh because I have been told countless times by my servants that you were an extraordinary child, yet all this time you were a horse, which makes the whole thing pathetic. I am not sure why the gods decided to choose a beast to bring this world into a brighter future, but I suspect they were desperate. Tell me something, kid, how long have you been in the guise of a human aside from the 7 years you were sleeping? Enlighten me, because I am curious to know,
said Tyrek.
About 4 years,
I answered.
So, this is not something you recently decided to become? You have been a human for a long time now, and thus your animal nature has long since been forgotten. Granted, you probably still have the instincts of a horse, as no one can truly abandon their true selves, but it doesn't consume your mind. Perhaps I was wrong to have misjudged you, and that you truly are worthy enough to face me. Yes, you must be, because you are capable of using magic, and a mere beast would never be capable of such a feat. You also possess intelligence, which is lacking in your 4-legged brethren, but that is where my compliments of you cease to be,
said Tyrek.
My fellow ponies aren't stupid, I said. They must be, because they allowed you to slip away,
laughed Tyrek.
I left my world of my own accord, I said. Perhaps, but they should have done more to keep you. It's not surprising that whoever rules over your world lacks the foresight to appease to you, and that is a reflection of their weakness as a ruler, for they choose compassion rather than power,
said Tyrek. Did he just insult Princess Celestia by calling her a weak ruler? The one who taught me magic? Just hearing him say that made me feel really annoyed, and my emotions started to consume my heart, but I need to remain calm, especially because he witnessed my emotional breakdown.
It seems I have struck a nerve. You have a strong connection with the ruler of your world, but then she was a fool for letting you go. I suspect she couldn't accept how great you were, which is another sign of weakness.
Ganondorf was trying to get under my skin with these insults, yet I can't allow my emotions to get the better of me. I don't want to transform in the wrong manner, yet it appears that is what he wants to see happen, because he knows I become a psychotic individual.
Heh, it's just so easy to rile you up, kid, because you're young and inexperienced. I don't care about this ruler of yours, as it will mean nothing once I've conquered your world after claiming the true force. I won't let you get to me, I said. Yes, I'm aware of that emotional breakdown you had 7 years ago,
said Tyrek.
Then why try to make me lose control again?
I asked.
Because it was amusing to see you snap and become enraged,
replied Tyrek. He then proceeded to stomp the ground and release more shock waves, but I was too annoyed to let them knock me around because he was tormenting me just for amusement. I've been tormented countless times in the past, so witnessing him doing this made me want to make him suffer, but I can't seek out revenge as that isn't heroic. No. This needs to be done correctly so that he can never again bring this world to ruin. The evil king flung another magical attack, which I used the Master Sword to send it back at him, but not before using that magical explosion spell, which was something he wasn't expecting. Just as Ganondorf was about to knock back his own magic through the use of his arm, my little spell went off, which caused his own power to get thrown into him. Taking out the fairy bow and firing a light arrow, its magic struck several times before he dropped down, where I swung the Master's Sword as many times as I could. After hitting him a few times, he recovered and proceeded to fling magical attacks repeatedly, perhaps out of sheer anger. I dodged all of these before hitting one of them back at him, which he responded by knocking it back with his arm. This started our next volley, where we managed to keep it going for quite some time.
How are you able to keep up this pace? I have caused you so much pain on both a physical and emotional level, yet you refuse to fall to my power. I won't be bullied,
I said.
What are you talking about?
Asked Tyrek.
For much of my life, I've been tormented all because they couldn't understand what I was going through, and in the past I used to be a tormentor, which would justify them wanting to make me miserable. All you've been doing since we started this battle is torment me because you feel good about making others small and inferior to the likes of you.
I replied.
Only those who are strong will dominate,
said Tyrek.
Ha! Such conceit!
I shouted.
Power is the driving force which everyone desires, or have you already forgotten my words? I am stating the truth for what it is, and hearing you believing otherwise shows how weak you truly are. If you cannot embrace power, then there is no place for you. Perhaps you will understand my way of thinking in due time, but then you'll be dead, thus it will mean nothing,
said Tyrek. Since I knew he was starting to lose his patience with me, what with attacking in a ruthless manner, I needed to rile him up for a change, yet I had to be careful about how I go about it. If pushed too far, Ganondorf will likely unleash his full power, and kill me without mercy, so being delicate about it is the way to go.
If you believe power is the best thing in the world, what would happen if someone even stronger than you came along?
I asked.
Someone stronger than me? Such a notion is impossible, for no one is more powerful,
replied Tyrek.
You don't know for certain because anyone can seek power. Sunset Demon wielded a great power inside of her, and she could have potentially overthrown you and become the ruler of this world had you not kept her in check,
I said.
That creature was no threat,
said Tyrek.
So why destroy her? I know it was you who denied her the means to regain her strength after I inflicted that wound on her as you were afraid of what might happen, but I can't really fault you for wanting to be cautious about it,"
I said.
"I fear nothing. No one is stronger than me as I am the most powerful man in the world. As long as the Triforce of Power remains in my hand, no one can hope to defeat me. You have no chance of prevailing against me, kid, so I suggest you submit to my will before my magic ends up destroying you. If you survive, then I shall use my skills as a superior swordsman to end your pitiful existence,"
said Tyrek. His increasing anger meant he was losing control of his emotions, yet that can become problematic as anyone with power who loses control are people who are capable of just about anything. At the same time, they lose their concentration and make mistakes, and that is exactly what happened as Ganondorf lost track of his magical attack. It ended up striking him, which I followed up with another light arrow, causing him to fall to the ground, where I proceeded to strike him with the Master's Sword once again. When he recovered and got to his feet after being hit several times, I could see the seething anger in his eyes, which indicated that he was no longer willing to toy with me.
"Maybe now you will begin to understand that I'm stronger than I look,"
I said.
"Die,"
said Tyrek. He pointed his finger at me, which fired a dark beam that went right through my heart before I even knew what happened. This was enough to kill me, but when the fairy revived me after I slumped to the floor, he repeated this same attack, which killed me again. My other fairy then revived me, and I was in complete shock over how he had just killed me twice in a matter of seconds.
"I guess he's through playing around,"
said Spike.
"If I get hit by that attack one more time, I'm dead for good as I have no more fairies,"
I said.
"Then you need to transform now, as that could give you a better chance of surviving,"
suggested Spike.
"But how can I when he could pick me off just like that?"
I asked.
"Don't you have anything which can cause a distraction to give you some time?"
asked Spike.
"That alternate form. I remember experiencing that 7 years ago. While you weren't able to control it back then, it proved to be powerful. Too powerful, and for that it poses a threat. You won't get the chance as you'll be dead in mere moments,"
replied Tyrek. He then fired his dark beam for a third time, which I avoided because I wasn't about to be hit by it again. When he saw me dodge it, he floated up into the air before slamming his fist into the ground, where I fell down into the room below.
"He's really serious about killing me,"
I said.
"You need to transform,"
suggested Spike.
"I don't think I'll have enough time,"
I said.
"And you will not,"
added Tyrek as he raised both hands, and began to concentrate all of his magic into a single attack. He tossed this giant blob of energy at me, where it split into 5 pieces, and exploded in the room below, where I had no means of escape.
"You proved to be very powerful, kid, especially for a horse, but in the end you could not keep up with me. My power proved too much for you, and for that the last hope for this world has been snuffed out. Once I claim the Triforce of Courage, I shall have 2 pieces, and that dear Zelda leaves the Triforce of Wisdom. That expression on your face is glorious, as you believed she would save Hyrule, yet all she has done is failed at the final hurdle."
Ganondorf then turned his attention towards Twilight, who had been watching the battle since the beginning, and he started to float towards her with the intent on killing her, but then something began to glow behind him.
What is that?"
He turned around, where he found himself blinded by light, and by the time his vision returned a few moments later, I was standing in front of him, having now transformed as my pony. Ears and tail were quite evident.
"You survived my onslaught and became your stronger form?" I am not surprised, as you have proven time and again that you are rather resourceful. I'm going to finish this,
I said.
We shall see if you can live up to such a boast,
smiled Tyrek.
In this form, I am stronger both physically and magically,
I said.
Yet your intellect remains the same, as well as the delusion that you believe I shall fall. I wonder, do you feel good about having all of that power? You have denied such a desire, and now you have been forced to use it. Perhaps you are just like me in the sense of wanting more strength, yet not possessing a killer instinct, as compassion is what prevents corruption from consuming you,
said Tyrek.
I will never be like you,
I said.
And yet long ago this was the case, correct? You once had the urge to become the most powerful person in your world, and were determined to acquire this prize no matter what needed to be done to achieve success. Anything else was deemed weak in your eyes, as it held others who had the same thinking from achieving true greatness. Your other self was a reflection of this urge which you tried to bury in the past, yet it managed to haunt you for quite some time until it was destroyed. You cannot believe that walking away from your own past would allow you to move on with your life, for one's actions shall follow them wherever they go,
said Tyrek.
You of all people are haunted by the past,
I said.
No, for I have nothing to regret, as my actions were justified,
said Tyrek.
Anyone who says that are blinded by the truth, so what you just said was no doubt a lie. Ganondorf, you've committed so many atrocities because of having this delusion of being right in your actions, yet what you've done is beyond forgivable. There is nothing which would allow you to become reformed, as you're simply too far gone to be saved under any circumstances. In fact, I'd say that such a chance was lost the day you were born. I used to be blind in the same fashion until my heart and eyes were opened up by those who believed I deserved a second try, and I've been thankful for it ever since,
I said.
We have a clash of ideals,
began Tyrek.
How so?
I asked.
We both claim that our respective methods are the right way, so we shall see who is wrong and who is right. For your sake, kid, you had better hope those horse features of yours are able to live up to your own expectations,
replied Tyrek. He then began floating in the air again, and formed another powerful burst of magic above him by concentrating his power. As he flung it towards me, I was thinking of knocking them back at him, but when he suddenly slammed into me using a shoulder tackle, I got knocked back into the wall before being pelted by all of those magical blasts.
And here I thought those features would give you the agility of the beast, but I'm mistaken. Just because you have changed doesn't mean you are better.
Ganondorf then formed another powerful magic attack, and as he was doing this, my mind came up with an interesting idea. While he is powering up his magic like that, he is completely vulnerable, so perhaps using a light arrow around this time would be really effective, but I had no time to prepare as the attack came at me with incredible speed, yet I jumped to the side just in time, but not before being grabbed by my tail.
This little addition has proven useless because it left you open. My transformation is the result of accepting friendship,
I said.
Spare me such drivel, kid,
said Tyrek. He raised his hand and fired a magical burst which I couldn't avoid due to how close I was, and the attack went right through me before striking the wall. My reaction to this was sheer agony, but I was still alive as my transformation gives me extra protection against magic, so if I had been my regular self, I would be dead right now.
I know you breathe still, kid, but I held back because I want you to suffer even more. I'm not sure how long your body can hold out, but we will discover this together.
He then tossed me into the wall using plenty of force, and then floated into the air while I slumped to the ground where I struggled to get back up.
"That wound looks painful," said Spike. "It's not as bad as he thinks it is," I said. "Then why did you scream as though your life were ending?"
asked Spike.
"Because I wanted him to drop his guard, because he assumes I'm barely holding on, but in truth I'm completely fine," I replied. "If this idea of yours doesn't work, then you could experience even more than just pain, you know," said Spike. "I've just got to wait for the right moment," I said.
Ganondorf in the meantime had been laughing because he truly believed that I was on the verge of death, yet he was completely unaware that I was about to make a strike. He raised his arms above his head, and began concentrating his magical energies into an even bigger attack than before, so I'm relieved that I can still move, otherwise this would have been the last thing I'd witness in my life. Just before the evil king was about to throw this amassed energy, I took out the fairy bow and fired a light arrow which struck him several times, which was surprising as I didn't think it would have that extra effect until he had been struck by his own power first.
"What do you suppose caused that to happen?" "He's gotten weaker," replied Spike. "How can you tell?" I asked. "An attack of that scale is a sign of desperation, so he wants to use immense amounts of power to kill you. It does mean he becomes vulnerable to the point where you no longer need to turn his own magic against him, but be careful, Sunset Shimmer, as desperate people can do anything. I'd say he should be going down relatively soon based on the current condition of his cape," replied Spike. "Excuse me," I exclaimed. "I'm assuming you just noticed this yourself, so allow me to explain things. Every time you've hit him with the Master Sword, his cape for some unknown reason starts getting holes all over it as a sign that he has been taking damage. The more holes on it, the weaker he is getting, and I count about 15 holes, although this is just my best guess. You could be mere moments away from defeating him, thus bringing peace back to Hyrule," said Spike. "His cape is an indicator of how much damage he has taken so far in this fight?" Just when I thought things couldn't get any more bizarre, this happens because of a logic I've long since given up on. As Ganondorf fell to the ground once again, I ran over and struck him several more times using the Master Sword, but it wasn't enough as he managed to recover, yet that's when he drew a sword which he must have been hiding behind his back. "How have you been able to hold your own this far?"
asked Tyrek.
"To be honest, I have no idea either," I replied. "Dare you mock me, kid? Me? I am Ganondorf, and I will not be ridiculed by some kind of freak," shouted Tyrek. "Freak? That's a little excessive, don't you think?" I asked. "I should have killed you back when I first saw you as Zelda, and the Sheikah woman eluded me after I had murdered her father, but I was careless. Had I ended your life, none of this would be happening, but I can easily remedy the situation. The Master Sword you hold in your hand has long since gotten accustomed to being wielded by such a unique kid, yet it is merely a blade and nothing more. While it may be effective against those of darkness, if the one using it is weak, then its true potential shall never be made a reality. I shall demonstrate your lack of skill by cutting you down with this blade I hold, for it is what I used to kill the king," replied Tyrek. "That sword killed the king?" I asked. "Yes, and now it shall do the same thing to you," replied Tyrek. He rushed forward, swinging his sword around as though he were possessed with the sole desire to kill me, and I raised my mirror shield to avoid being struck repeatedly. "Using your shield to protect yourself is the mark of a coward. If you continue in such a manner, then you shall betray my expectations. I'm not interested,
I began.
What did you say?
Asked Tyrek.
I don't care about what you expect from me, so you can keep such opinions to yourself, as I'm not a guinea pig. You may want me to be a specific way, but I have no intention of conforming to such whims. I understand now that secretly you've been afraid of this conflict simply due to me defying the odds, and for that you've been tormenting me in the hopes of shattering my confidence. We could have resolved our differences in a more peaceful manner rather than resort to fighting until one of us dies, but I suppose you only care about proving your dominance over people,
I replied.
I do not fear you,
shouted Tyrek.
I don't know if I ought to be feeling sorry for you, sympathetic, or even ashamed to witness someone like you crumble to pieces all because of not accepting the truth,
I said.
You have truly become pathetic for believing in such nonsense, but that doesn't matter to me because I am superior to you, and my victory shall be assured once I have severed your head from your shoulders with a strike of this sword,
said Tyrek. His blows against my shield continued to grow in power, yet I held my own because the mirror shield was extremely durable, but I needed to be more offensive, so when he swung his sword again, I parried with the master's sword, causing both blades to clang against each other. Ganondorf then had a cruel smile on his face because he believed I was fulfilling his expectations, but I wasn't about to let him take advantage of the situation. Our swords continued to clash about, making loud noises as the result of steel bashing against steel, and while the evil king has experience, I have heart, which should be enough.
This will end shortly, I said.
Indeed, and it shall be you who falls, laughed Tyrek.
Because?
I asked.
I am stronger,
replied Tyrek.
I have the heart to prevail,
I said.
Another weakness which serves as a reminder that you cannot defeat me,
laughed Tyrek. If only he could have listened to reason, but he was too far gone. After clashing swords a few more times, I managed to get the upper hand due to Ganondorf slipping up after slashing me in the chest before laughing at my misery. With his guard dropped, I switched to the fairy bow and fired a light arrow which stunned him, so when I struck him with the master's sword, he acted as though he had the wind knocked out of him.
What just happened?
I asked.
I think you defeated him,
replied Spike.
Really?
I asked.
Just look at what he's experiencing right now,
replied Spike. The evil king had dropped to one knee before clutching his throat, and started to breathe really heavily, which would mean that I have actually prevailed against him. What I don't understand is why the room has grown darker as though the light itself has been snuffed out completely, but I suppose it wasn't important. I wanted to rest after such an intense battle, but I don't think I'll be given the chance, considering I have no idea as to what is going to happen next. Ganondorf appeared to be struggling when it came down to talking, yet he managed to say something after spending a few moments breathing.
No. How is this possible? The great evil King Ganondorf? Defeated by this kid? I am more powerful than you, and was clearly superior in every possible way, yet you have bested me in battle. I refuse to accept such a humiliation, for I will not believe that I was beaten by a horse. That's all you are. You're nothing but a filthy beast who pretends she is human,
said Tyrek.
Just can't accept the truth now, can you?
I asked.
I have ruled over this kingdom for 7 years, yet you come along and defeat me, thus ending my reign? You merely were lucky to have achieved victory, for in truth you are inexperienced, and unworthy to be the hero of time according to legend,"
replied Tyrek.
"Yeah, I'll give you that much, but luck had nothing to do with this," I said. "Then what was it?"
asked Tyrek.
"The power of justice guided me to victory," I replied. "Is that what you think is the reason for your accomplishment? I suppose a kid is still clueless about the big picture even when they see themselves as being on top. I can't deny the fact that I have been defeated by you, for there is no point in deluding myself to such an obvious truth. Yet, I shall make sure you do not enjoy this victory because you still need to escape my castle,"
said Tyrek.
"Just when I thought these acts of desperation from you couldn't get any worse, you have gone and reached a new low," I sighed. "Dare you mock me, kid? Then with my last ounce of power, I shall kill you with a thunderbolt,"
said Tyrek.
"My name is Sunset Shimmer," I said. "You?"
said Tyrek as he suddenly coughed up red blood. It looked like Ganondorf was trying to speak, but his constant coughing and spewing up blood made it difficult for him, yet eventually he would say something.
"Sunset Shimmer."
He then got to his feet and raised his arms before he started to glow as though he was trying to unleash a powerful burst of magic. Suddenly, the entire throne room started to crumble because of what he was doing, and I found myself being blinded by the light coming from him. It looked like this would be the end of me, but I would regain my vision a short while later as the light faded away. In what can be best described as a suicidal action, Ganondorf had unleashed his power and simply destroyed his throne room, which made no sense. If he wanted me dead, then this wasn't the best course of action for him, but when the evil king collapsed to the ground, I checked his pulse in order to confirm my suspicion.
"Well?"
asked Spike.
"I'm not feeling a pulse, so that means he's dead," I replied. "Quite the horrible way to go, wanting to unleash all of his power like that," said Spike. "All it did was destroy his throne room, although it looks like the entire castle has suffered tremendous damage, but I guess he was so desperate to kill me that he had become completely blind to what he was doing. You might say he experienced a mental breakdown right at the end, which is rather sad," I said. "So what do we do now?"
asked Spike.
"I was thinking of taking a rest because that fight really took a lot out of me, but I suppose we need to find Twilight and get her out of here before anything else can go wrong. If I recall correctly, she was still trapped inside of that prism before the fight began, so that means she must be somewhere above us," I replied. A strange sound could be heard from above, which prompted me to look up, and sure enough, the prism which contained Twilight was floating down towards the floor of the destroyed throne room. When the prism landed on the ground, I began thinking about how to set her free before it shattered on its own. My face then lighted up with joy because Twilight was safe, and she looked a lot better than before, judging from her expression. "I knew you would rescue me, Sunset Shimmer, for you were destined to save our world. The battle between you and Ganondorf was one I watched from that prism, and at times I actually believed the evil king would kill you because his power was immense. I apologize for not having faith, but now you can relax, for your long journey has come to an end," said Twilight. "My confidence wasn't that good either," I said. "Also, I notice you have the ears and tail of a pony, so am I to deduce that this is your transformation?"
asked Twilight.
"Hey? Oh, I'm surprised they haven't disappeared yet because I'm no longer in battle," I replied. This felt really embarrassing, so I shook my pony,
ears and tail rapidly with my hands, and Twilight was laughing away as she was finding it charming how I could be playful while having just defeated the likes of the evil king. Eventually, my pony, add-ons disappeared after enough shaking, but I still felt humiliated over what happened, yet I was quickly getting over it because seeing Twilight looking and feeling better really made my day.
You are certainly an unusual hero,
smiled Twilight.
I'm not typical, that's for sure,
I said.
Sometimes the best kind are the ones who know how to be unpredictable, for those who are easy to predict often fail because their flaws end up getting them every time, no matter how good they believe themselves to be. This is true not just to people with noble hearts, but also those whose hearts are filled with darkness. Everyone has imperfections which can prevent greatness from being achieved, yet sadly they do not understand and accept such problems,
said Twilight. She then turned her attention to Ganondorf, where her smile disappeared, and was replaced with a sad expression as though she were showing him sympathy despite what he had done. I suppose she is strong enough in spirit to forgive him, which makes her worthy to become the next ruler of Hyrule, for compassion along with wisdom makes for a great leader.
Ganondorf? Pitiful man. Without a righteous heart, he could not control the power he claimed, and now he has been killed, which is something I warned would happen. His desire for power blinded him where he believed himself to be the only one powerful enough to wield the golden triangles, and now he has lost everything. During the battle, I could see his slow descent into madness, I said. It is because you were a factor that defied all expectations, and it was something he could not figure out,
said Twilight.
By the way, what did he do to you?
I asked.
He told me the dark secret my father took to the grave, and it is one which shall haunt me because I must carry on his legacy. My father made a plea to the great goddess to banish a tribe because they desired this land and the Triforce, yet he should have tried to resolve the issue through peace. Had that not worked, then isolation would have been ideal, but if that failed, then using combat would have been our final act,
replied Twilight.
He probably did that because of having no other choice,
I said.
This is what I believe to be true,
said Twilight.
In any case, we shouldn't stay here any longer because there's no telling what will happen. The way back down the tower is going to be a long one because there are so many stairs, but once we reach the main area of the castle, it's just a simple walk outside. There will be no monsters getting in our path, but just in case I missed any during my exploration, I'll protect you from harm,
I said.
Yes, we must leave this place and find some way of destroying it. Such a castle like this cannot continue to exist, for the one who ruled over it has been killed, so once I have assembled the 6 sages, we can figure out what can be done,
said Twilight. That's when the castle started vibrating as though it were experiencing an earthquake, and debris started to fall around us as though the castle was falling apart.
I did not expect that he would be so desperate even in death, but I guess he does not wish for us to survive because it would be seen as a final insult. Sunset Shimmer, you must listen to me very carefully. This castle is going to collapse soon because of the magical attack that was unleashed before I gained my freedom. This place is coming down,
I asked.
In his final act before dying, Ganondorf is trying to bring this castle down, so we must escape before we perish,
replied Twilight.
Do you suppose we could go the way I came?
I asked.
Already the castle has started to collapse in various places, so the chances of going back down the tower through the way you came is impossible. However, I do recall seeing some passageways blocked with iron bars which serve as escape routes. We can use those escape routes to make our way out of the castle, so please follow me as I know where we need to go,"
replied Twilight. She then walked over towards a pathway which had appeared out of nowhere, but I'm not going to question why.
"What should we do?"
asked Spike.
"We've got to get out of here before the castle collapses, so we'll follow Twilight as she knows what she's doing,"
I replied.
"And him?"
asked Spike.
"Ganondorf is dead, and there is no reason for wanting to take his body with us, so we'll just leave him here because he isn't going to be doing anything else. Just make certain you stay close to me because this will be quite difficult,"
I replied. Leaving behind Ganondorf and running over to where Twilight was waiting for me, I had to avoid falling debris, and when I reached her location, she began to move onward while I followed behind. From up here, I could see the entire area that used to be Hyrule Castle, but has become a desolate wasteland.
"I can sense the disbelief in your heart,"
said Twilight.
"How could he have done this?"
I asked.
"People like him show no remorse for their actions,"
replied Twilight. As we made our way down a rather narrow walkway that went alongside the wall of the castle, she had to stop every now and again to avoid the falling debris, which consisted of lava rocks along with stone, metal, glass, and even darkness itself. As for myself, I raised my mirror shield which protected me, but when I suggested to Twilight that she should use my shield instead to keep herself safe, she refused my request without a second thought.
"I may be a princess and the sole survivor of the royal family, but I am one who does not need protection, for I have learned to take care of myself. I do appreciate your concern, Sunset Shimmer, but it would be best for you to keep your shield." "Okay, but make sure you keep safe,"
I said. After walking along a bit further, we came across an opening which led back inside, but it was covered by iron bars just like what I saw inside the room below Ganondorf's throne room. I could see no switch or lever that could raise these bars, so how are we supposed to continue? Perhaps we should make our way back to the top before taking the path which I used to get here despite the danger, yet Twilight appeared to be looking closely at what was before us.
"These bars have been placed here using magic,"
said Twilight.
"Does that give you an idea?"
I asked.
"I can use my powers to open the way forward, but I will need a moment,"
replied Twilight.
"Not sure if we have one, so hopefully you can make this quick,"
I said.
"There is no need to be in such a panic, Sunset Shimmer, for we shall escape before this castle comes down. I believe we can escape from here by choosing to remain calm, and not lose ourselves in the thralls of despair,"
said Twilight. With all of this debris falling around us, I'm surprised at how calm she is, for I was certain she would be the last person to act like that due to what has happened. She then raised her arms and unleashed a magical power which was pretty strong in its own right, yet it was enough as the iron bars quickly raised up allowing us access.
"Please follow me because we cannot afford to become separated."
I followed her into the castle where I found myself in that room below the throne room, yet there was debris already on the floor which was smoldering away. The doors were blocked with debris, meaning there was no way of using them, but Twilight urged me to continue following her.
"Those doors are inaccessible," I said. "All of this debris shall limit our progress, but we must keep going before it is too late,"
said Twilight. I ran after her where she dodged and weaved around the debris, which certainly was something, yet I chose to go right through it because I wasn't taking this situation seriously, and also due to having a defense enhancement. When a few lava rocks smacked me in the head, Twilight gasped in horror before running over to check on me.
"Are you all right? You must be careful as we make our escape," for I do not wish to see you perish here after you have defeated Ganondorf. Guess I'm allowing my defensive enhancement cloud my judgment, I said. You need not let it serve as a detriment, Sunset Shimmer, so long as you have humility, said Twilight. That is true, I said. Now we must continue going for we do not have much time, said Twilight. Time? I asked. This castle has been falling apart at a much more rapid pace than what I was originally suspecting, so we have about 5 minutes before we are buried underneath the rubble, and perish, which is his intention, replied Twilight. 5 minutes wasn't all that much considering how big this tower is, but there's no choice but to go for it. She reached another passageway blocked by iron bars, and proceeded to use her power to raise them, giving us access to the next area outside. When I ran forward and exited the castle, we were now closer to the ground, but I couldn't get complacent given debris was falling from above, and was reasonable given we were further down. Which way from here? I asked. We must continue downward, replied Twilight. We proceeded down the narrow walkway where there was a small gap which could give her trouble, for I don't think she can move very freely while wearing a dress, but she suddenly surprised me by jumping across the gap without any trouble. Did you forget that I was disguised as a Sheikah for 7 years? I may be in formal attire as is customary of a princess, but I retained the skills taught to me by Impa. Guess you were right about you taking care of yourself, I said. There is no need to feel disappointed, for I am protected by the chosen hero, smiled Twilight. Just wait until I jump this gap before we continue, I suggested. She nodded her head in approval, and I jumped across before we resumed making our way down until we ran into another entrance blocked with iron bars. I assumed there was just the 2 escape routes near the top of Ganon's tower, but it looks like there were a lot more than I originally suspected. No doubt Twilight will be able to open this with her powers, but I was curious as to where this entrance would take us. She raised her hands, which opened the way, and we entered the next area, which was the room where I was almost killed by those iron knuckles, so I wanted to get out of this area as quickly as possible. Why are you being hesitant? Asked Twilight. I have bad memories of this room, so I want to leave as fast as possible, I replied. Very well, so please follow closely, for debris is still falling, said Twilight. If there was one piece of satisfaction about this room's current condition which pleased me on an emotional level, it would be the lava rocks scattered about. Touching these will surely hurt me, which is what Spike is bound to say, so I need to avoid these, otherwise I could be forced to use one of my remaining potions. Despite being a princess in this kingdom as opposed to an unicorn back in Equestria, Twilight was much more composed than what she normally is based on what I've seen when she visits the human world. She then called out and beckoned me to follow, because I ended up daydreaming again, and in the worst possible place you can imagine, so I sheepishly ran over to her and apologized for my actions. You must have a lot on your mind to be concerned during such a time as this, so you need not say sorry. More than you realize, I said. Then I shall not intrude on such personal matters, said Twilight. She used her powers again to open the way forward, and soon I was outside again, although now even closer to the ground, but I was finding this situation a little too easy given how debris was falling all around us, and nothing else. Ganondorf may have decided to bring his castle down as a final measure of preventing us from escaping, but you would think he'd have something else in mind to make our escape difficult. Perhaps I shouldn't have thought about such things, because they have a tendency to come back to haunt me in the end. After running down the next walkway while avoiding debris with some of it almost knocking me off into the abyss below,
but we made it just barely as a huge lava rock crashed through and destroyed the path behind us.
"Things are getting very intense," I said. "Which is a sign that we must keep on going,"
said Twilight. She walked over to the next set of iron bars, and raised her hands before using her powers to open the way forward, but I still had this feeling things were about to get much worse. The next room was where I defeated the two Stolfos, but for some reason the gold and blue ornate chest that contained the boss key was no longer here, so did someone decide to remove it for some weird reason?
"We are now halfway down this tower sunset shimmer."
Twilight then ran forward in the direction of the next passageway, but suddenly she found herself surrounded by a circle of flames which prevented her from escaping.
"Why is this happening? Ganondorf has been killed, so he should not be able to do this, but perhaps he chose to leave behind something in case we tried to escape." "I'm not going on without you, Twilight," I said. "I am sensing an evil presence within this room,"
said Twilight.
"That means monsters are about to appear, but I wish that wasn't the case because we don't have much time,"
I sighed. As I pondered over how I could get rid of this circle of fire, my worst fears were realized as two Stolfos popped up from the ground. While they weren't different colors like the previous two, this was still an inconvenience as I need to get Twilight out of here before the castle comes down. I guess this is what I get for saying things were too easy. To be continued. Chapter 72, The Final Battle.